We're ready to roll. Okay, so we're going to, a few weeks ago I said that the Lord put in my heart that He wants me to teach us how to move into our promised land where every promise is yes and amen. So many of us have prophetic words and promises that we think are kind of taking a little bit too long, so we let the Lord know it. But I think there is a protocol in the book of Joshua that shows us how to enter the promised land scripturally, biblically. What is God doing in our midst? There's no rules and laws as to how to do anything. Okay? There's just being led of the Spirit. But the Old Testament is a picture of New Testament realities. So we're going to walk through the book of Joshua and see how we can move to that place where we're going to see every promise yes and amen. And really struck a chord with me just about a week ago. There was a prophetic word that came in from Nate Johnson. I shared this with the prophets earlier, but a prophetic word came in from Nate Johnson, and he said, where so many Christians are in a time of transition. Does anybody feel the transition? You feel, and I even said this to Williana a couple weeks ago. I said, some days I feel like I'm in a limbo between Galatians 3:13 and Galatians 3:14. And then Nate's word came out and said, some of you feel like you're in limbo. I don't even ever use that word. But God is so knowing who we are, where we're at, and where we're going, that He is putting thoughts in your heart to let you know that this is what I'm doing in your time of transition. Okay, transition times are important because you can't get from here to Fort Myers Beach without crossing a bridge, right? You got to cross. The bridge is the transition. If you don't know the bridge, if you don't know how to get to the bridge, you're not going to get to the island. All right, so we got to navigate the transition, and navigating that transition is usually the last big step to seeing your promise fulfilled. You know you're at the edge. You know you're at the end. It's right before you're giving birth. Okay, the water broke. Now what do I do? What do I do? Okay, you better get somewhere where you're going to deliver that baby, because this is the transition. Between water breaking and birth, there's a transition that you can't stop it now. Okay, the transitions, right now you're in a transition you can't stop. Nor do we want it to stop. But we want to navigate it. You know, the curse in Genesis 3 of childbirth was that there's pain in childbirth, but you know the curse is broken. You don't ever have to have pain in childbirth anymore. Do we know that? Yes, we know that. Guess what? You don't have to have pain in transition anymore. Transitions are to be a blessing, not a curse. And the transition is, a lot of the fun is in the transition, because God is doing new things and preparing you for something that you've never seen in your life. He's preparing you physically, emotionally, spiritually, and materially, and relationally. He's putting you in places. He's preparing you. He's doing things that are so crazy good. And you're like, wow, I am about to see the most fruitful, amazing time in my life. In every transition, it seems like almost everything comes to a stop. Like, whoa, Lord, I feel like, is the engine stalling or what? But in that transition, I find out what God is doing, and then it happens, and I move into the greatest season of my life, and I'm there again. I feel like I'm in a slingshot, about to be just thrown so far, so fast, places I've never been before. But sometimes with a slingshot, you got to be pulled back before you're released, right? So that's what it feels like. Oh, okay, Lord. It's not painful. It's just like I need God to show me what this transition looks like and get the understanding, all this kind of stuff. But it's a good transition, but we're about to be shot forward. And so when we got the word from Nate, he said that the transition seems to be going slower than we thought it would. And when I read that, I was like, wow, that's exactly right. What is taking so stinking long with this transition? But as soon as I read it, the Lord gave me the revelation, and He told me exactly why the transition for many is going so slow. And it's found in Joshua 1. Okay, so you can look with me in Joshua 1. verse 1, and I've said this many times, but it's going to land for us and for those online. We're really going to catch this, and when we catch this, you will be propelled into your new season. Yes. This revelation is the knife that cuts the thing that's holding you back, right? You're tied to it, and then and you shoot forward. Does that make any sense? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm being held back, and then, and it's found in Joshua 1:1. It says, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord. Okay, all right, we're waiting for Moses to die, and when Moses dies, we get out of the law, and we move into Jesus. Joshua is the name for Jesus. All right, the law has to leave the scene, and Jesus, grace, the new covenant, has to enter the scene. All right? The church is still walking in the curse of the law. And because the church is still walking in the curse of the law, we're still in the wilderness and we're still complaining. Why was the Israelites, why did they die in the wilderness? Many Christians are dying in the wilderness. They're dying in their mess. They're dying in their hurt. They're dying in their pain. They don't know how to get healed physically. They don't know how to get healed emotionally. They don't know how to get healed financially. They don't know how to get healed relationally. They don't know how to get healed career-wise. Okay, so we needed to know how to get healed. But what happened in the Israelites when they were sent out, the 12 spies, the government came back, and the government says, we can't go in, we're too scared. When the government says, when the church says we're too scared, you're going to stay in the wilderness. And this is what happens. When you get scared, you immediately go into the law. Now remember, the law had not been given yet because they were just crossing in and there was no law yet. But they immediately went into the law even though it wasn't even there yet, because fear releases accusation and condemnation. And the first thing they did is they grumbled and complained about Moses and Aaron and said, we need new leaders. You know you're in the law when you got somebody to complain about. I'm just being honest. And that's why I don't like going on social media, because it's one big complaint. Everybody's complaining about this president or that president or this person or that pastor or this theology or there's always somebody to complain about because there's so much law. And because we live in the law, we're not transitioning into the promises. When they chose fear, not only did they complain against Moses and Aaron, because it's always the preacher's fault, right? It's always the preacher's fault, and we need they literally said, we need new leaders, and we're going to go elect them. Have you ever been in a church that elects the leaders? It's just not God. It's people who are hurting, are trying to pick somebody that's going to comfort them, instead of allowing God called leaders to lead them and trust those leaders, because those leaders are literally called to bring you into your promised land. You know what they did after they complained about Moses and Aaron? They complained to God. Why would God bring us here to kill us? Some people literally believe God is bringing them to a point to make them miserable. They even believe that God made them sick. What? How could God make somebody sick? He has no sickness to give anybody. If you go to heaven, there's nobody sick. How can God release sickness to you? He's not going to. He can't. But there's all that. Okay, we're afraid of God. We're afraid of the leaders. We're afraid of the Hittites and the Jebusites and the termites and the cellulites. We're afraid of all these ites. We're always complaining about something when we're in the law. Okay? So the law has to die. Our complaining has to turn into rejoicing, and only God can do that in us. If I sit here and tell you, you better start rejoicing, the last thing you'll do is rejoice. Because I'm making it a law. I'm making it an obligation. I say, okay, you dirty, rotten sinners, you need to quit complaining about everything. You need to be happy. A preacher can't even say that, being happy. What it is God saying, I've set you free from the curse of the law. I've literally set you free from a ministry of condemnation. Okay, watch this. Oh, man, watch this. This is so cool.